Let's call the case, People versus Jeffrey Ostermiller.
Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Morgan Barroso on behalf of the people.
Bridget Coons on behalf of Mr. Ostermiller. Mr. Ostermiller, state your name for the record.
Jeffrey Ostermiller.
Claire on behalf of probation. Your Honor, Mr. Ostermiller is scheduled before the court today on a violation of probation. Mr. Ostermiller was arrested on February 24th, 2024 on a violation of the contact order. So the court is aware Mr. Ostermiller at that time did have no non-consensual contact with the victim in this case. There was an incident that took place at her home. She asked him to leave. And in the police report that I reviewed, Your Honor, it took him multiple minutes before he left the premises or left the house. He was in the garage when police arrived, and he was arrested due to the contact order. Mr. Ostermiller was in custody. He was arraigned. The magistrate then put in place a no bond with the victim in this case, and bond was set. Mr. Ostermiller posted bond on February 26th, and he was released. Since that time, Your Honor, I did receive documentation from the victim in this case where Mr. Ostermiller has continued to communicate with her, multiple communications via text, emails, Google Docs, and I have provided all documentation to the court.
Yes.
Given the continued violation of the contact order and the prior violations from Mr. Ostermiller in this case, probation is now asking that the court sentence Mr. Ostermiller to 93 days in jail, credit for 27 days that he's served on this case today, and to serve the balance. But the court applied the bond that he posted recently, which was a $5,010%. That is in his name. I would ask that the court apply that to his outstanding financial, waive remaining terms, accept his other financial obligations, discharge him from probation without improvement.
Your Honor, at this time, Mr. Ostermiller does deny the allegations, and we would ask for this to be set up for a hearing. In the meantime, we'd ask that he be able to continue bond. He has completed some of the components through probation. I think that he is trying.
Well, he's in Ann Arbor. Why doesn't he come down? We can do the hearing today.
I'm staying with my mother in Santa Cruz.
How far is that?
About an hour and a half.
I got time.
I have no transportation, Your Honor.
Well, you want me to send somebody to get you?
I prefer if there were any alternative, I would take it.
So you can come down or we can come get you. Which would you prefer?
If you need me to come down, I can make every arrangement possible to try to come down.
And what I'll do is I'll adjourn this matter to 3 o'clock. Well, what time is it? 1:30? I'll adjourn this matter to 3:30. Court does call the case of the People versus Ostermiller.
Assistant Prosecuting Attorney Morgan Barroso on behalf of the people.
Bridget Coons on behalf of Mr. Ostermiller. Oh. If you can, state your name for the record.
Jeffrey Ostermiller.
All right. I think we went through on Zoom the violations that are alleged and the recommendation, but you may go ahead, Ms. Coons.
Your Honor, at this time, my client would like to admit to the violations, and we would be asking that the court depart from the recommendations for good cause. He is, as far as the no contact goes, we in no means mean to excuse it, but he received 7 texts before he replied to the victim in this case. Again, I'm not trying to mitigate it. He understands that that was against court order, but he felt that at that time it would have been okay to reply since she was texting him so much. As to everything else,
So which about the first incident then?
the consensual contact, or non.
That turned into non-consensual contact.
So as far as that goes, Mr. Ostermiller, I think that there's an issue with the police report. Our focus is more so he admits to the text and calls. As to the consensual contact, he was told to leave. He was packing his bag. The police had arrived to the house.
Before I was told to leave. Correct.
Yeah. And then at that point, he was arrested. He is currently inside individual therapy. He goes once a week. He discusses issues like this, including his relationship. He even has an appointment today at 4:00. He's currently in the domestic violence program. He's 12 classes down, has one that he's supposed to go to tonight as well. He completed the intensive outpatient program, finished that inside November. He's been compliant with the sober link. Currently,
5 days.
5 days.
5 days shy of my 6-month chip.
Yeah, 6 months sober. He goes to AA meetings daily
sorry.
and does have a sponsor with the 12 Coconuts Home Group. He does have a full-time job. He has 2 upcoming huge projects with deadlines that he'd like to try to meet, as well as he's in the process of reconciling with his children. I do have 2 letters from Recovery Technology and Hagira Health Incorporated. He went to their programmings and both of them said that he was doing well in them and he was very much participated inside the activities. So we asked that he be allowed to continue with probation. And I think that he is apologetic about the scenario.
Anything from the people?
No, Your Honor, we ask that you follow the Ms. Flores' recommendation.
All right. Anything else from probation?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Mr. Ostermiller, we've tried to work with you through this case, and the reports I get, and it's part of the problem is that rather than following what should be done, you always want to do things your own way, and we allow you a little bit of latitude, and you just continue to not follow what we're asking you to do. I don't understand after being arrested the first time, why even after 7, 10, 15, 20 texts, I don't even understand why you respond. I don't even get it.
I should have blocked the number. I should have done anything but contact her back. I should have. I take full responsibility for that. It was a lapse in judgment. It was a lesson learned that will never be repeated. Until the day that I die, I will never contact Ms. Mason, make any attempt to contact her, go to her place of residence or work, or anything. I want to be as far away from this woman in this relationship as possible.
Anything else you want to tell me, sir?
I made a big mistake. I made a big mistake this week. It is not a mistake that I will repeat ever.
I just don't understand. I'm going to waive all remaining terms except the financial obligations. I'll discharge the defendant from probation without improvement. The $500 bond that he applied will be applied to the fines and costs in this case. Sir, I'm done. I give people chances all the time. And I don't understand the arrest, get arraigned, then contact. It makes no sense to me. And I think it's because of the way that you try to do things through your probation, and that is try to do things your way And if it hadn't been for Miss Polaire correcting you before it got to me, this day probably would have come long before now. But the way that this is going to be now is I'm going to order 93 days in jail. I'll give you credit for the 27 that you served. I am going to order that the defendant is to serve the balance. Defendant is remanded.
Your Honor, Mr. Miller is a veteran and he has already been referred to the Veterans Treatment Court. I'm asking for an adjournment of maybe.
I can't take my eyes off that Spartan on his chest. But go ahead. I'm sorry. You were talking.
But you're from Baltimore, aren't you? Just say yes. I thought that was a good thing. So I've been in touch with Ken Ashenfelter. I've been in touch with my client's caregiver, and they're helping him set up the interview. My client does not have a phone. So I'm hoping we can resolve this once we.
Does this try to get into Veterans Court?
Yes, sir.
All right. How much time are you going to need?
I'm suggesting 3 to 4 weeks because I don't know Mr. Ashenfelter's schedule for the interview.
All right. What branch?
I was in the Army.
Okay.
Your Honor, there's a bond issue I'd like to address.
Yes, go ahead. A bond issue. Go up.
Well,
You see how well that went the last time, but go ahead.
Mr. Miller paid $1,000 on a 10% bond to be released. He's essentially penniless, except he does receive SSD, but almost all of it goes to rent. He doesn't have a phone, but he has a bridge card. He's a caregiver and a guardian. And if it's at all possible, he's hoping if you could reduce his bond or give him a personal bond, perhaps he could get a refund of some amount in order to purchase a phone.
How did he post? Your goodness.
Posted $1,000.
I hold Social Security. I bailed myself out.
Okay. What was the people's request for a bond in this case?
We requested 10,000 cash surety. And it was 10,000, 10% was what was given out already.
What was the basis for the cash surety request?
This was an instance where the defendant snatched a purse from an 80-year-old in the Meyer parking lot, and while he snatched the purse from her and fled, the only reason he was able to be located was because a third party followed him out of the parking lot and led officers to him. And then once officers did a search of his person, they found that he had been armed with a knife or dagger, sharp blade.
He didn't punch an officer.
That's correct.
He cooperated,
That's correct.
yet he has a higher bond than the other case. Sir, is all you received is SSD?
Yes, sir. I have a state guardian from Washington County. I live at Schooner Cove. I live in this disabled area. They take my entire Social Security for rent there.
If we can get him, or even if we can't get him to the VTC, obviously I'm going to be working on trying to file a claim so he can get some income from the VA if he's eligible. I would think he would
Do
be.
you engage in services at the VA?
I haven't ever, no. I just got hooked up with that more or less. My dad was my guardian after I got hit by a car walking. My dad was my guardian from 2010 till last year when he died from cancer. Then I got a state guardian and my caregiver left, and I had nowhere to live when all this stuff happened. So I've never been in trouble, you know. I wish this wouldn't happen, you know.
When were you discharged?
2000.
How long were you in?
I went in 95.
And you've been struggling since.
I'm sorry, well,
You've been struggling since.
basically, yeah. Well, no,
Well, there was a good period and then you,
my whole life I've done pretty well. It's just, just when I made this mistake, it was just, wish I wouldn't have done it, but I can't fix what's already happened.
okay. So, um, and you only get your SSD at the beginning of the month. And
I get mine on, I get it on the 3rd every month,
but then they take the majority of that for rent.
every bit. I don't get any money out of it.
You have a bridge card?
Yeah.
Or
Well,
for-
yeah, I have a bridge card.
Where'd you come up with 1,000?
I use my rent money instead of,
Okay. Do you still have a place?
yeah, I still have a place. And I'm only 1 month behind right now, so
Oh, dear God. Okay. All right.
I did a full month in jail, but I couldn't deal with many more days.
No, I got you. I got you. Will be adjourned to February 22nd, 2024, 9 a.m. I'm also looking at the whole picture. I understand what happened, but I'm going to reduce the defendant's bond to a 2,500 10% bond. So you can get some of that back, get your rent caught up.
Thank you very much.
And
Yes, thank you.
I'm taking a chance. Mess it up,
I will be
then
here.
you got to come and see me.
I will be
You don't
here.
want to see me if you messed it up. Hear me?
Yes, sir, I do.
Thank you.
Promise I will be here.
Thank you, Judge.